questions because they know something's fishy is going on since I let them in here until all the players were gone. But just go with it. See how the week goes and availability. All right, folks, we're going to open up with Coach Day over here. Whoa.
Hi, Austin.
Round. Lori Schmidt from the Dispatch.
Before things get serious and everyone gets over here, can I ask about the MVP effort this year of
Yeah. Well, he does more than that. He this year was named chief of staff and has really been a huge help for everybody in the building. Certainly a help for me to, a lot of the administrative things and great communication across the way with Gene and his staff. This is somebody who loves Ohio State football and was a huge member of our team. He's got great enthusiasm every day. He's never had a bad day, and I'm glad that he's part of our team. And he's made a big difference this year.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, I believe that Patrick Garrett's supposed to meet with us today. You've praised him a couple of times over the past week. Just what are the things that he's done to put himself in a position to earn real playing time?
Well, it starts with just showing up every day and, with no expectations other than trying to get better. And some days you wake up and you find yourself on the field. And this is somebody who came in, with non-scholarship, and he's earned his way on the field. It's certainly when you're, in a walk-on situation, you have to earn everything you get, and he's done that. And he's earned the respect of the guys on the team, and he's a physical guy, he's a tough guy, and no nonsense. And when you play that position, it takes time to learn all the job descriptions. And so good to see him on the field and good to see him participating and certainly making an impact on the offense.
Andy Anders, Letterman Row.
We were talking about to Coach Knowles yesterday about Jack Sawyer a little bit. He mentioned just the work he's put in. I mean, Jack's really been one of the most consistent producers in terms of tackles on the defensive line, run defense. Just what have you seen from him behind the scenes this year?
And when you get into year 3, you see a maturity there, but there's a physicality that's being brought and a mentality that's being brought every day. This is an Ohio guy who understands what it means to be a Buckeye. I think he was the first guy that committed in that class. I think he might have been the first recruit that committed to me in that class, in the first class, full class. And, he knows what it means, and he knows what this place, how special it is. And he embodies everything that this program's about. And, you just see that on a daily basis, and his attitude every day when he comes in, he works hard. He's a, hard hat kind of guy. And you're seeing him play that way.
Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Brian, there was a report yesterday that you guys shared some information with Purdue ahead of the 2020 National Championship, Big Ten Championship game. Can you clarify what you shared, if anything, and what you feel is within the realms of legalities there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but I can tell you this right now that, nobody here, did any of that. So, we went through and made sure we went and, asked all the questions and, got our compliance people involved, and none of that came back at all. So, I could answer, very strongly that did not happen.
You asked questions now or at the time?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment anymore on it.
Austin Ward, podcast.
People say, I'm not asking you to talk about the matter itself, but why don't college football coaches just change their signals? Like, how can you, isn't it easy, just to mix it up, that people are stealing it? Why is that not a practical solution, to just change the way that all of the 13 teams are calling?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of questions out there and a lot of people talking about it right now, but for us, we have to stay focused on what matters right now. So I'm not going to get into that right now. Let's just talk about these guys and focus on Michigan State.
Just the way is that something that you could do week to week anyway? I mean, just for this game against Michigan State.
Yeah.
What's the difficulty in a program changing its signals?
Yeah. Well, just, anytime you're doing that, you have to figure out how you're going to communicate, right? And that's really what it comes down to. And there's different ways to communicate, and whether it's a different language or a different sign or something like that. I mean, that's part of the game.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
You found out that you're getting back on this week. played in a couple weeks. How difficult is it for you as play caller to want to get him involved, but also understand that he might not be back up to game speed right away? And do you kind of see yourself ramping him back up with each week as you get him back in the line?
Yeah, no, he's worked hard to get back into the lineup, and we want him playing his best football here in November. He was ahead of schedule, and you can see that. I mean, shoot, he wanted to get back a few weeks ago, and great to have him back, part of it. And we're going to keep trying to figure out ways to have him back into the lineup. That was the first time he's been back in, so it was good. Now he's had another full week of practice, so now we got to get back to where we were before, where he was a huge part of an impactful player on the offense.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How closely either of you are focused on what you guys do in terms of Michigan State this week and not worrying about the Michigan stuff? Are you following it, and do you have somebody on your staff who's really on top of that?
Guys, certainly Quinn can, fill me in at certain times, but again, for us, the only thing that matters is playing right now and finishing the season the right way. And anything else is right now for us is a waste of time. Now, if somebody, asks a question or, whatever, or Gene comes in, then certainly, we'll talk about it. But other than that, it's all football.
Tim May, the Tim May Show.
Compound question, but it's a question. Left ankle for Cal McCord. You play quarterback. How much can that hinder you? Basically, will fall through, whatever you want to call it, playing finishing passes, if you follow my drift. And how close is Devin Brown? You talked about him earlier this week. I guess it was yesterday. But how close is he to being a viable candidate to step in, maybe if things don't go well?
Well, yeah, he's viable for sure. He's close to getting back to 100%, but he's had a full week of practice here, so that's been great. And we're going to need him here down the stretch. You just never know exactly how it's all going to shake out. So yeah, the more guys who get back, the better we're going to be.
Yeah, and Kyle, how much does that really hinder? I mean, people I think kind of short-shrifted, like it's nothing, but it is.
Yeah, but he's feeling good now. So, we kind of moved on from that. There was a point there where that was a little bit of an issue, but he's moved on from it.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks.
Coach, we have Emeka Abuka at the South 20. Thanks, Coach.
Suspended for a half a week. You took 2 questions.
This is convoluted. You got to throw them in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let me go. See if I can find it.
Thank you.
I'll grab it. Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
Hey, Jerry.
Liv, I
still have to talk to Gary.
Hey guys, Jack Sawyer right here for you.
How you guys doing? Doing well.
Yeah, we were talking to Pat Garrett over there. I'd like to kind of see him rise up as a walk-on and get an opportunity like he had.
That's awesome. I mean, me and Pat are pretty good buddies too off the field, and just to see him, keep working and keep his trust in God throughout the last couple of years and finally get a shot to play is amazing. And he's the type of guy who I wouldn't be surprised if he got a scholarship after the season. So I think he's earned everything. He's a great guy, and I'm just super happy for him.
Jeff, do you feel that sometimes in the public perception, I guess, that on defense is an undervalued part of playing defensive end?
In the public side? Yeah. I think I get it. Guys in the media and on people who just watch the game, they want to see the big sack stats and all those, which is good. But we're focused on winning games, playing good defense, playing tough, and just keep winning. And don't worry about any of the stats. We'll come back up after the season, look at those, and other than that, we're just focused on one game at a time, not listening to any noise. So that's where we're at right now.
You've been a pretty solid run defender for this team. I feel.
Thank you.
Just watching it, and you've had at least 3 tackles every game but 1. I guess what has gone into what's important for setting the edge on a run play?
I mean, it's huge. If you don't have an edge set, that's when explosives happen. That's when the ball, starts running 10, 15, 20 yards downfield before you make a tackle. And it's really important to set edges, not just at the defensive end, but to set edges at the 3 technique, or if you're a linebacker filling a gap. So I think it's pivotal on the defensive side of the ball to set edges.
Jack, has this season gone as far as schematically and what you and Jim talked about where you need to begin? Is this what you've been doing this whole time? Is it lined up perfectly, or have there been some alterations to maybe your role in the
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been great. I'm loving playing defensive end again. I'm having, a lot of fun. Defensive line's playing really well. The front 7 as a whole is playing really well. So is the back end. Our defense is playing really well as a whole, and we're winning games. So, we're really happy with where we're at right now.
But it's been
2 more questions.
the same the whole time as far as what you and Jim talked about at the beginning of the season.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
This is what I want you to do. Nothing really has changed within your role. It's been exactly as you expected.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Jack, why do you think you guys have been so good in the red zone this year?
I think it's just it goes back to our whole motto. The silver bullets is give us an inch and we'll defend it. And I think that when for some reason, whatever reason it is, when we get down there, I think kind of everyone just rises up a little more, and we get those huge stops. Coach Day calls them 4-point plays, and we force field goals, and don't let them in the end zone. So, and a lot of times they've been missing field goals too, thankfully. So it's been good.
Last question.
Yeah, I also, Jim Knowles and Ryan Day both referred to you as kind of a hard hat guy, someone who's been putting in a lot of extra work behind the scenes. Just what things have you been working on, and where, I guess, is it important to focus your energy, kind of off the field? It's good.
Yeah, I just think every player who plays this game and everybody on this team, we can always find ways to get better. And I think that, it's our responsibilities to handle our time right, manage our time right, and put in as much work as we can to give the best product on the field on Saturday. So for me, I've just been trying to do anything I can, whether that's watching extra film or work with Coach Jay, all that stuff. I think it plays a huge part in why we're so successful is because we have so many guys on this team that does that. I think Mars probably caught 1 million balls on the jugs, and so that's why I think that you see guys stepping up and the team just playing so well as a whole. Awesome, thank you guys.
I was gonna say, yes.
I'll ask. I had forgotten about that. So I'll ask.
I meant to come. I meant over here.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
That's right. Like someone practicing on those two. How much fun do you have talking?
Right.
You don't have to do that initially if you want to get it out. You can always like go back and pull that out.
Buckle up.
Folks, we have JT Tuimoloau out here at the North 20.
I'll put
JT, do you feel that Jack's kind of underrated as a run defender, just in general?
Oh yeah, I mean Jack's. If you watch Jack, he goes hard every play. I mean he's that's the guy I love playing next to, or not next to, but on the other side of, and he brings the energy, and he just makes I can feed off of it. Having him, Mike, Tyleek, and whoever else is in there, especially with Jack, he just brings that mentality.
You've taken a couple big shots in recent games. Jack's helmet in the one game. First of all, how bad did that hurt? Were you like fearful that could be a serious injury?
I mean, that was one of the hardest hits I've taken, and so happened to be one of my teammates. But no, it was just kind of just a loss of win, and I mean, I got to just ask if we made the stop, but I mean that's how hard we play, and that's just what comes with it.
How banged up are all you guys?
I mean, this time of year, everybody's gonna be banged up. I think what matters most is how we take care of our body. What we're doing outside of the white lines to help our body, mind, and soul. And that's the thing that Coach Day always preaches is what are you doing? Are you doing the extra mile? And I think that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, you guys have almost all answered the bell almost every week.
Mhm.
That's remarkable, right? I mean, to a certain extent, what does that show about this mature defensive line?
I think that shows a lot. I mean, it all comes with just how much we love each other as a defense, as a rushman, as a brotherhood, and it shows out there. Brotherhood is the the stronghold of this team, and you can see we have so much fun out there, and we just love playing with each other. Yeah. Okay.
Last week, obviously, Rutgers had some success running the ball.
Mhm.
What have y'all addressed this week about that aspect of the defense?
Yeah, just staying disciplined. Just doing your job, not feeling like you have to do so many things outside your role. But if your job's to hold the C gap or fill the A gap, whatever it may be, just playing as one. And that was one thing. Rutgers they never stopped running the ball, and that's one thing we gotta do is just stay disciplined throughout all 4 quarters, and not feel like we have to go out there and be Superman.
Yeah, I think you were on the field on a 4th and 1 play, weren't you?
Oh, the fumble, Ruski. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. What did you learn there? Would anybody ever get you on that again?
Coach Knowles made a great point to us since we have emphasized a lot of holding our own or giving us an edge, we'll defend it. That people are going to start doing like little plays like that, especially with 4th and 1. And so, I didn't know what happened. I was under the pile, and then I just heard the crowd, screaming. And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably our crowd. We probably made the stop. And I get up and, he's running down the field. But, I think that also comes with going back to being disciplined, just knowing your role and, trusting the guy next to you.
Yeah, and really quickly, Michigan State has nothing to lose. I mean, they're out of it in all kinds of ways right now. What kind of, wildness can you expect from them, you think, Saturday?
Anything, Michigan State, like you said, they have nothing to lose, and they're going to go out there and fighting. It's not going to be an easy game, and they're going to throw everything at us. As long as we just stay within the game plan and trust our technique and just do what we know, I think we'll be good.
Rutgers ran for 5 yards of carry on you guys.
Yeah.
And you guys get in the red zone and they can't run anymore. What is it about the red zone that changes about this defense when people get inside the 20, inside the 10?
Yeah, I think for us, we just really don't like when we let people score. So, when we get in the red zone, we just huddle up and be like, hey, they got down here. Now let's either turn the ball over or just force it to a field goal. But, we understand that we have to do a lot more to keep them outside the red zone. But, once we're in the red zone, that's, money's on the line. And, they're going to do everything, the play call shortens a little bit. And so we understand we have to be just, continue to fly around, continue to communicate, and stop it from getting inside the end zone.
Obviously, you have to execute Jim's plays, right?
Mhm.
But is there something to the red zone just being an attitude thing? Like, listen, they got down here, but we're not letting them get across this line.
Yeah, and I think Coach Knowles preaches that a lot, and we just take it in and embrace it.
You've talked about discipline, playing gaps down, playing your role, those kinds of things. Has there been an added emphasis on that this year as opposed to last year? Maybe last year more aggressive attacking line of scrimmage and those kinds of things, or is it about the same?
I think it's the same thing. Being a very aggressive, as well as just doing the little things. Discipline sounds very, doesn't sound like a big thing you have to focus on. But when you're out there, you peek outside of one gap. You don't understand that you opened up the other gap next to you. So I think it's just playing hard, playing physical, playing fast, as well as knowing your job.
JT, you're one of the leaders on this team. How much are y'all talking amongst each other? For one, you're number 1 in the country in the college football playoff rankings. You got the stuff going on with your arch rival up north right now that's circulating, etc. You've got a team coming in that y'all have picked heavily to take care of. How much are y'all talking to each other about keeping your eyes on the prize, so to speak? How active is that conversation?
It's very active. I mean, every day after practice, we're just more so talking about the plays we missed, or me and Jack or the D line talking about like, hey, what move are you working on today? So, it's we're not stopping. We're continuing to talk all the time about, hey, what do you see? Or Tommy will even come ask me, hey, what's their main plays? And, we're always communicating from the back end to the front end. And that never stops. Even when we do leave the Woody, we're still texting each other and still have mass group chats about what we see and what we should do.
Are you curious about what's going to come down the end of this week, maybe for your rival, though? Are you curious about that?
No, as of right now, I'm just very focused on Michigan State.
JT, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Mike's not. I just want to let you guys know how much I care about the viewers and the listeners. Are the mics on? Because I don't want to hear them.
Your mic's dead.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, where to begin?
Yeah.
Where to begin? We are at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for typical Wednesday evening interviews with Ohio State head coach Ryan Day and a number of players. And just right as we were, Kevin's hand is already up for Super Chat, right as we were walking in, the entire world started blowing up with a lot of emo content on Twitter.com related to the Michigan sign stealing scandal, Michigan's response to the Big Ten. get to watch us process some stuff in real
Well,
time.
yeah, and I have not gotten to see only bits and pieces of the response, but let's get to a super chat here.
Mike Farino, is it just me, or did Michigan's defense leave Petiti no choice but to act? They essentially called him weak and will openly question Big Ten's power. Not something you can really back down from.
Well, and that it's interesting because you could wonder, is that the the position of Michigan? But one of the people who is sort of always pretty good at, let's say, representing the viewpoint of the University of Michigan is John U. Bacon, and he is an author, and he as of right now about 6:30 p.m. Talked about the fact that from his book Let Them Lead, chapter 11, quote, when it's time for you to pick leaders, pick them not because they're your leading salesperson, attorney, surgeon, engineer, or teacher, but because they can lead. But the Big Ten picked Tony Petiti because he ran MLB TV. He knows almost nothing about the Big Ten. It's people, football, or college sports. I have no idea what the Big Ten will do next, partly because Tony Petiti has no idea what he's doing, and it shows. Tony, what's fascinating is when Tony Petiti was at MLB and was on the MLB Leadership Council as the chief operating officer or something like that. What was MLB? There was an investigation going in MLB. This is not the first time he's been party to an investigation. And in fact, it's not the first time he's been party to an investigation involving the stealing of signs via illegal electronic means. That was during the Houston Astros investigation. So, for Tony Petiti to be getting called out like that, it is pretty it is a pretty aggressive tone, and it's not the kind of thing where if you think that nothing is coming, or like, well, hey, I'm going to have you write on the chalkboard 500 times, I am very sorry for whatever I may or may not have done, then that's not the response. This is the response that you're getting if you think something significant is coming down the tracks in the next 24-ish hours.
Yeah, you're already seeing the lashing out from the Michigan side. The Michigan state representatives releasing a letter saying, hey, you better not hurry these things along. You better due process. And through this whole time, we're seeing the Michigan side talking about how you're not doing this isn't due process. You're rushing things along. Meanwhile, they're doing the steps that we talked about a week ago.
The steps that are called for specifically in order in the sportsmanship policy that they're enforcing this
and
via.
They've gotten information from the NCAA. They've got their own information through the investigation that they've done. I think that maybe there's just so much evidence. It didn't take long to find enough to act. But the idea that this is moving too fast, just because it's moving faster than the NCAA, or you're moving too fast, Michigan would almost want this to go faster, because the quicker you go, the less evidence you can find. But obviously they want this to drag on. The idea that Tony Petiti is not doing things the way it's been laid out. What is the proof of that other than the things are moving along just exactly as the bylaws have stated?
Well, and I don't want to read the bylaws again. We've read the bylaws plenty of times. Yes. Did I hear a niner in there? You go through the bylaws and it's like there is a prescribed thing, and the prescribed process is the commissioner notifies your school, and then your school has a reasonable, quote unquote, reasonable amount of time to formulate a response and get the response back. And then the commissioner issues his decision, and the decision is final and cannot be appealed according to the Big Ten sportsmanship bylaws. And if the commissioner wants to go above and beyond what he can do under his prescribed powers, he has to go to the joint group of something, executive chairman or committee or something like that. Joint group executive committee, something like that. JGEC. And what happens is the JGEC has to take into account what Michigan sent back, and then the JGEC has powers to enforce a more substantial penalty or knock back the requested penalty back to the maximum that Tony Petiti could implement on his own, which would be 2 games of the suspension. And then that decision goes out, and the decision is final and cannot be appealed. That's the process. That is literally the process as spelled out in the conference sportsmanship policy. So, you can say like, well, why are you doing it now? Well, if the commissioner who is empowered to make the punitive decision feels there's enough evidence, he's the one who's empowered to make that decision to a certain point. And then after that certain point, then it's the JGAC, and the JGAC has to make their, they review the evidence, they review the school's response, and then they issue their, that's literally the process. And, I think it is an interesting point that you make there where, first of all, we don't know exactly what Tony Petitti is considering, because there's what has been publicly reported. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that has been sort of rumored, speculated, been in the wind that like, hey, this might be coming out. And we don't know exactly what he has and what proof he has on terms of all that stuff. And here's the thing. I think a lot of the Michigan people probably don't know exactly what that is either. And so, there is, to a certain point, like as you said, they may want to get the process going now because, hey, who knows what's going to come out in 2 weeks. But also, it seems like goal number one is kick this can just past the national championship game. And then, like, hey, due process, the proper amount of time for process to be due in this due process situation is coincidentally like the Wednesday after the national championship game. That's about when I think it would be reasonable for the Big Ten to issue some kind of a judgment here.
Like when Stan Drayton decides to leave for the Chicago Bears the Wednesday after or the Friday after signing day, that sort of thing.
Do you remember what Jim Harbaugh's tweet was in response to Stan Drayton leaving the day after Mike Weber signed with Ohio State over Michigan?
Was that what a tangled web we weave?
When first we practice to deceive.
Can I read this?
Please do.
Portion of Michigan's letter. This is from Ross Dellinger. Michigan with a warning to the Big Ten in its letter. The conference should act cautiously when setting precedent, given the reality that in-person scouting, collusion among opponents, and other questionable practices may well be far more prevalent than believed. Basically, if you come after us, we're going to show you people are doing things bad like we are doing. What kind of, first of all, in-person scouting, let's see it. Let's see the evidence. Let's see the evidence that you have, because I'm fine with everybody getting busted. Do it. In fact, Tom, I would say, why are you sheltering cheaters?
Right. Yeah. If you have something, you would come out with it and say, here's the proof, not the speculation, not here's what we've been leaking to people. Is there a person from Ohio State, or is there a person from Illinois? Is there a person from Wisconsin? Is there a person from Clemson who has been buying tickets and having people sit in the stands and videotape it? And if there is, what is the documented proof? And this is entirely possible that one or more of those schools may have done something like this in the past. Where is is there proof to back that up? Or is it just like, well, we're just saying it would be a real shame. You get a nice conference here. It'd be a real shame if something bad happened to it.
That's exactly what this is. This is a little bit of a shakedown. You wouldn't want to see anything happen to it. And what kind of threat is that for, do it, point this stuff out. And when we're talking about the nuclear bombs that they're already dropping, if that's all you've got, you've got nothing. You've got, these guys are following the rules. We just don't like the rules that are in place that they're following.
Right. Yeah. There's, these are sort of related, because it's been, there've been coaches talking to other coaches, which
they have conferences.
Coaches talk to other coaches. It's a business. It's a business where there's a lot of shuffling from place to place. People know people. That's not uncommon. That's, that happens at every level of the sport. That you think high school teams don't talk to other teams in their conference, and it's like, well, what's the difference there? And the difference is, well, one of these things is specifically prohibited by the rules, and one of these things is not. And you may feel as if there's not a big difference between the two, but the big difference is that one of these things is prohibited by the rules and the other is not.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the sharing of information, because Ryan Day was asked about that, and he said he didn't want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but I will tell you that nobody here sent anything anywhere, in terms of the Purdue or the Illinois, that sort of stuff. They didn't contribute any way to any of that. He said that a couple of times in the one statement that is out there on Twitter now that you can go find, but don't leave the stream. But just, Ryan Day having to come out and deny that. And it's the second day in a row that Ohio State, somebody from Ohio State has had to speak, or something has come out in terms of just answering to some of these charges. And again, the charges that aren't even necessarily wrongdoing. Like even if you were going to investigate somebody, like this is still sort of America, but that's not even neither here nor there. The idea that whatever bombs they have, like if these are the first two have been duds, and obviously maybe they're not going to drop Hiroshima or anything like that until they need to. But I don't think they're scaring anybody at this point.
Well, I guess the question is, if you feel like something really substantive is about to come down the tracks, and the response on Wednesday night out of everyone affiliated with Michigan and national people who are very clearly talking to Michigan people like Dan Wetzel, if this is the response, you're very clearly anticipating something major coming down. So wouldn't you drop your big nuclear blast before that comes out? Because here's the thing. Because what's going to happen? Let's play this out. Jim Harbaugh, speculation. We are in the land of speculation now. Jim Harbaugh gets suspended for X amount of games. Michigan files their lawsuit that to their emergency injunction, which either does or does not stop it. And then what? Like, at what point then does the bomb get dropped that may or may not exist? It feels like you would want to do that in advance rather than he gets suspended, he does or does not get, get that, an emergency injunction. If he's suspended and they don't get the emergency injunction, and it gets an indefinite suspension, it's a 4-game suspension, whatever it is. What good does it do to drop that then? Then it's like, well, we're in hell, welcome to hell with us. That doesn't seem like, if you had it, wouldn't you use it in advance to establish that, look, everyone is doing this illegal thing so you can't punish us because we're not doing anything worse or more illegal than anyone else's. Wouldn't that be the time you use it?
Yeah. In their response to the Big Ten, they would give everything they have. Why would you hold stuff back?
Right.
You know what? Let's just hold back some of our defense for the appeal.
Won't they be embarrassed?
That will be a surprise.
Yeah.
Boom, roasted.
Well, and I mean, maybe they do, but that just strategically, to me, that doesn't make sense. You don't, because what is the Big Ten going to do? They're going to suspend him for fill in the blank, whatever. And then Michigan's going to come out with whatever they have. And then the Big Ten's going to go, oops, we're so owned, unsuspended. That doesn't feel like that's how that whole process is going to shake out.
Is this Michigan imagining like this 10-page letter is going to get them to A plus up on the blackboard? Is that what this is?
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Kevin.
that was the reference.
Yes, Kevin. Thank you. Yes.
You are number one, Tom.
Yes. Will Michigan shoot their eye out? My question to you.
So the idea that they're holding stuff back, like, why would you? You're fighting for your life right now.
Yeah.
You feel like you're fighting for your life.
Right.
It's just football. But
what are you saying?
This response feels much more than the response you would see for a 2-game suspension, which, as we've seemingly established and have come to believe, can be handed out essentially if that's what Tony Petitti wants. This feels like way more than a fight of a 2-game suspension, because as we know, Michigan doesn't mind 2-game suspensions. I mean, they gave their coach a 3-game suspension. So maybe Tom, the real issue is they feel like only they are allowed to suspend their head coach.
You can't do that to our pledges. Only we can do that to our pledges. Was that a super chat?
We do have a super chat, a nice one from Rick Reese. And let me get to the actual question he asked a little earlier. He would like to know, have you guys ever considered having the occasional breakfast or lunch get-together, as in with fans here in Columbus or something like that, for a little public appearance?
We do eat breakfast and or lunch. Many days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. We could get some kind of a huddle member, something
I have
or
no
other
problem with
together.
that.
Yeah, I mean,
just talk to our secretary, Kevin, traveling assistant too. the traveling secretary. You know what? He does plan our travel. So
He does. Yeah. I mean, he's basically.
I'm the one who knows if we're credentialed or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So anyway, so yes.
Can I read another?
You sure can.
I've only seen like 3 or 4 things from this letter, but this might be my favorite. This is from Dan Wetzel. And Michigan's letter to the Big Ten notes that its margin of victory this season has gone from 34 points to 38 points per game since Connor Stalions was suspended. The quote here is from the letter: "There is simply no evidence that Stalions' actions had a material effect on any of Michigan's games this season." Now, Tom.
Tony, have I shared with you in the past my theory that you can generally tell how good an idea is by how stupid the objections to the idea are? Sorry, that was a total non sequitur. What were you going to say?
But that this is one of your items in the letter, and I don't know where this is. I don't know if this is item 1A or item 17D, but that this is actually from academic people in an argument as to why this has had no impact. Who have they played in these 2 games? Or what? Michigan State
and Purdue. And a big chunk of that advantage came in the Michigan State game, which happened 2 days after this story broke, for which Michigan State had not a ton of time to make any kind of adjustments at all, and in which Michigan State is extremely poor at football this year. So, yeah, I mean, we can have a conversation about like significance of data, and if the subset of games is 2 and the difference is 4 points divided by 34, so we're talking about like, Tony, it's like about 11.5% increase in margin of victory. Boy, that's QED is what they say if you speak Latin.
And you're the math guy. I famously, prior to my senior statistics,
I'm going to check my math while you talk.
Exam, ripped up my book because it was like my 21st birthday, and I didn't know what I was doing. I shouldn't have ripped up my book before the exam. I know that now.
11.176%. So pretty close.
Is 2 games of data more important than, say, like 34 games of data with Connor Stalions getting these signals over since 2021? Which is more impactful?
Well, I mean, I think if you're looking at numbers, I think it was, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think it was 17-5-1 against the spread or something like that in Big Ten play since the start of the 2021 season. That is a number where you're defying expectations, and expectations that are changing at a time, changing at a, they're adjusting. As you play well, the numbers are adjusting, and you continue to excel more and more above those, those expectations. That feels like that's probably a more significant data set. And it's not like Las Vegas is just pulling these numbers out of thin air. These are people who do this for a living and are generally pretty good at it. And so if you're exceeding those expectations, that feels like that's at least something that's worth considering more than, 11.176% more over a span of 2 games.
Well, and we'll get to the super chat real quick. But first, so prior to 2021, he had at least 3 losses every single season. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, had at least 3 losses. Since 2021, they've had, I believe, 3 losses. So in the 3 seasons since the reported cheating, sign stealing, cheating has gone on. So I don't know. There's a bunch of numbers that they could have chosen that would have made Michigan look a lot worse than the one tiny subset. Like this, it's like a skinny mirror. It's like the best light type of thing.
Well, and if this is the stuff that's getting put out,
that's ridiculous.
And this is the stuff that's getting put on Front Street. This is the stuff that's getting leaked to reporters as man, you are not going to believe how this is going to swing public opinion. Like, we don't know everything that's in the letter. I don't think the full letter has come out, but the stuff that's getting leaked is not like you lead with your, there is in cards, the idea you lead with your highest and best, or you're in real estate as well. You make your highest and best offer. I, for their sake, hope this is not the highest and best.
Well, you know what? This is the Midwest. Maybe they are doing it euchre style, high offsuit.
Mm-hmm.
You hold back on the right and the left.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, I lead high offsuit. I'll go with the ace of diamonds or whatever, ace of whatever. But this is more like tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to lead low and away. I'm going to lead my 10 of clubs, and the trump is, diamonds. And I'm going to be like, and I'm going alone.
Super chat.
Yeah, we got a couple in the queue right now. Now, Mike Farino, Harbaugh tried to report Day in 2020 for what was comparatively low-level violation, even if it was true. Does anyone believe while going 0-5 he would have held anything back?
So that was this was the incident that led eventually to the Hang 100 legendary quote. The allegations at that time, if I remember them correctly, and I think that I do, had to do with impermissible coaching during the pandemic, where you weren't allowed to be around players at certain times, or certain people weren't allowed to be around players at certain times, something like that. And they were turned in for something to do with, it was apparently something that was shown in one of the videos or something online that was, maybe against the rules, or I'm not, and I don't believe Ohio State was punished for whatever that was. I don't remember the end of that story, but it did not end in head coach suspension or any of that kind of stuff. What's ironic about that is that one of the things that, in the hamburgers thing, one thing that Michigan is still, that's sort of pending in terms of the initial NCAA case is illegal recruiting, contact / visit / whatever during the pandemic. So, that was sort of the genesis of the story that ended with the Hang 100 thing.
To the point of the question, if that's what if they're finding stuff like that and willing to go to the conference about that, or during a Zoom or whatever, just bring it up in a coaches meeting. Are they only, is that the gist of it? Or would they not also do that for all of these things that this dossier that they supposedly have about over the entire conference, much of which is Ohio State? Don't hold back. If your defense is that everybody else does it, then, show it to the Big Ten, see what the Big Ten does with it.
The Buckeye businessman. Can we talk about how Honda McCord's QB play is going to cost us the season at some point?
Let's talk about Kyle McCord's QB play. Now, Tom, let me ask you this. Did you know that he is 9th nationally in QBR?
I did know that, but I only knew that because you posted it on our board, I think.
And he's 17th nationally in...
on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where members of BuckeyeHuddle.com get to interact with us, Tony, Kevin, and I, who cover the team, Mark, who covers recruiting, Ross, Mickey, Devin, all those guys who cover X's and O's for us. A very fun and active community. I think we're over 4,000 posts in the thread about the whole Michigan situation, and boy, that number keeps going up every time I see it. Everyone is just sort of wearing out their F5 keys over the last couple weeks. So if you're interested in, if any of that sounds good to you, boy, howdy, do I have the place for you, BuckeyeHuddle.com.
What do you think about eventually, when this is all settled, turning that thread into a book? Just sell it. Like $19.99. This is like real time as everything is breaking and then being discussed. I think it would be a fantastic read.
Only if you illustrate it.
Oh, I'm a good drawer. What was the question? Because I had something to say.
It was about how Kyle McCord,
Kyle McCord.
You were talking about 9th and
9th in QBR, 17th in pass efficiency, ahead of names like Jordan Travis, the dude at North Carolina, Drake May, number 2 overall pick perhaps in the NFL draft. Yeah, he has some questionable moments, some valleys that I keep saying, but the peaks are fine. Does he limit the offense? I think it's not as explosive as it has been, but I don't know that he's the only person limiting the offense. They've had injuries. There are some moments where you're like, boy, this is jarring, but it's jarring not because Kyle McCord is bad, but because of Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields and CJ Stroud were so fantastic.
Well, and I talked to Ross Fulton, who is one of our X's and O's guys, for the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning episode that released tonight. And if you can listen to that on the podcast feed, on the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning podcast feed. It's out on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. But again, if you are a Buckeye Huddle member on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, you can find the video of that with the video of all the plays that Ross is talking about. So you can watch with the play and the replay and really see from different angles what he's talking about. People tend to find that useful. So if you are interested in finding that, and we do typically 2 shows a week with Ross during the season, one on the offense, one on the defense, you can find that at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. I talked to Ross about him a bunch, about Kyle McCord on that show, and Ross's analysis on it. And he had a whole thread about Kyle McCord's play earlier in the week, and his analysis there as well was basically, yeah, he's doing fine. He's doing fine. A lot of the check down that you're seeing is a function of what the defense is taking away. And what the defense is taking away right now is a lot of the downfield stuff. And they were Rutgers was essentially at times playing a box and one on Marvin Harrison, whereas they're playing a zone, but they've got one guy covering Marvin Harrison, which means there's one guy following him everywhere. And then there's also a zone defender kind of in that neighborhood. And the decisions from Kyle McCord have not been bad. The decisions from Kyle McCord have generally been, this is the proper throw given the defense that you're facing. And yeah, everyone wants them to take a shot downfield, but if 2 people are on Marvin Harrison, you're not going to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison as much. And if they're dropping multiple safeties back, you're going to take it underneath. And there was the long Travion Henderson catch and run right towards the end of the game. It was a 3rd and 9. Ohio State ran 4 verts. Rutgers dropped everyone back, so all 4 of the wide receivers were covered. So Kyle McCord dunked it down to Travion Henderson, and the only reason people didn't get real angry about it on Twitter was because Travion Henderson caught it and then made 5 guys miss and ran for 65 yards. And that was the right read in that situation. And yeah, if he gets tackled for 2 yards on 3rd and 9, that's real frustrating. But you also don't want him throwing it into coverage. Even the one interception against Rutgers was the right target, but he just didn't put enough air under it where the Will linebacker came underneath and picked it off. If he just put more air under it, Marvin Harrison was open. It's a first down. That was a touch issue, not a read issue. He has gotten substantially better over the course of the year. Ross is not some, the president of the Kyle McCord fan club where he's never said anything bad about Kyle McCord ever. Kyle McCord has gotten better throughout the course of the year. And I keep going back to many years that people remember very fondly about how they ended at Ohio State. And you go back to what those Ohio State teams looked like in late October, early November, and it's like, whoa, this team will never go anywhere. And then they win, the national championship.
Yeah. Are we caught up? Okay.
Philip Julio, I'm starting an LLC for a toaster repair out of a house in Wyoming. Seems to be lucrative. Anyone want to get into it with me?
So the LLC, I feel like we kind of just need to put a pin in that, because Blake Corum came out and said real assertively, I didn't know anything about this. And, there's 2 possibilities there. One is he didn't know anything about it, and Connor Stallions put Corum's name on it in a fraudulent manner, in which case that's a pretty serious criminal offense. Or he did know about it, and they're just trying to kick the can to the end of the season. We don't know which one it is. We have no idea. Legitimately do not know which one it is. So at this point, you got to just kind of the vacuum thing, the pictures of vacuums in the front porch. It is very funny. Stated objectively funny, yes. As far as what that whole situation means, that's one of those, put a pin in it. We'll circle back in April when the NCAA looks into it, because either that's probably I don't know this for a fact, but I would think logically a coach could not go into business with a player that feels like that would be a violation of some kind of something. So that it's probably something the NCAA is going to look into to figure out, and then it's either going to be true or it's not, and we'll find out later. But right now, I think it's funny, but I don't think it's anything that you need to be throwing at Michigan people. Right. And, there's other stuff that you can throw at people.
Yes. Keep the aim at the coaches and the administrators. I think at this point is the best course of action. Tom, I tweeted out something about the data, the impact. We saw from Sports Illustrated a few days ago where they had diagrams. Somebody from Michigan gave them diagrams of their plays or whatever. that secret spy person that had Michigan's plays. And
Mr. Bean, yes.
Mr. Bean. So I got a response from a Michigan fan, and this is what it says. I have yet to see any evidence that Michigan taped the sidelines. I have, however, seen evidence of OSU and Rutgers colluding with a future Michigan opponent to provide advanced scouting for them. Now, I'm guessing that evidence that he has seen is those screenshots of those plays. Now, Tom, didn't we also see Ohio State's purported plays on the sideline in the hands of Michigan counter stallions and that sort of stuff? Like,
so
did he miss that? I shouldn't be asking you. I should be asking him.
Well, I think this leads to a long conversation about selective news consumption, and you can find, this is true in many aspects of life. You can find a news outlet that agrees with your position on everything.
Yahoo.
The odds, like Yahoo. That's what the exclamation point is for. The odds that you are so much smarter than literally everyone else,
thank you,
in any frame of, in any area of life, that you are right about literally everything, and the people who disagree with you are not only wrong, but they are stupid and they are evil. The odds that that's true are probably not too close to 100%. So, it might be time to diversify your news consumption if you and try and look at things a little more objectively, because you can look, and this is true. This is not just like to pick on this one person, this poor stupid person, but I think that there are people on the Ohio State side of this that are saying, well, just to have a real apples to apples comparison. Ryan Day said on Wednesday night that they didn't do the thing that they were accused of. Jim Harbaugh said, I had absolutely no idea. Ryan Day is obviously telling the truth because Ryan Day is a good man. Jim Harbaugh is obviously lying because Jim Harbaugh is a bad and evil man, and I don't like the team that he coaches for. Like, there are people that think that. Like, you can take time to let stuff sort of play out, wait to see. There probably is going to be some kind of evidence in terms of like a documentation to back up either this thing is true or this thing is not true. That's true of the LLC thing. That's true of some of the documents that were provided. That's true of all this stuff. There's probably an electronic record that tracks a lot of this stuff that once they figure it out, you'll actually be able to know what's true and what's not.
Well, and the thing to remember is we as the public aren't going to see the evidence that the Big Ten has.
Correct.
The evidence that we're going to see, they're not going to leak that evidence in terms of, look at these pictures. The evidence that is going to be leaked is going to come from the Michigan side. And it is kind of a good counter to what the Michigan fans are saying in terms of we can't respond to any of these charges because we're not allowed to talk. But you can, and this is kind of how the responses come. They get leaked. They get just the outpouring of information and support tonight. But this whole thing with the selective facts, or you're not going to see what the Big Ten has until they decide to release it. Now, will they release it when they throw down their punishment? Perhaps, or at least bullet pointed. They may not let you know all of the stuff they had, but they'll pull out enough to win.
The old Milton Berle.
It's like they're not just going into this with let's try to pull this gambit off. Let's see if we can pull a fast one on Michigan and suspend Jim Harbaugh. They've got all of the evidence that they have at this moment that they've compiled. Is there more out there? Perhaps. I mean, if everybody's going to keep digging, probably going to keep finding stuff. But we aren't going to see the evidence that the Big Ten has. So I'm not going to be like, well, I haven't seen it.
Right. And, I think this might also be a data point applicable to other situations in greater life. If the decision that gets made is not one that directly aligns with the decisions that, what you feel, the proper punishment might be, there is a possible reason that does not include a massive conspiracy against you and your favorite football team. That is a thing that is, there might be other explanations other than the massive conspiracy. I did have someone today ask me, basically like the guy with the two buttons meme,
Hmm.
and it's the Big Ten officials this weekend with 30-year massive anti-Penn State Big Ten conspiracy on one button, and make Michigan go away on the other, and the officials sweating on like, boy, which of these two massive conspiracies is going to win out?
The Big Ten is out to get Michigan versus the Big Ten can't afford to lose Michigan. They swim in the same circles, and it's crazy circles, where the Big Ten doesn't want to harm one of its member institutions, but they also want to make sure that the stuff doesn't go crazy. It's like when refs have to call a game early in terms of like, wait, knock that crap out. We're gonna call it rigid in the first half here because you guys are getting crazy. You can't let things just go crazy. That's why if nothing happens with the punishment, then you're basically okaying whatever you want to do in this realm. And I don't think the Big Ten wants to do that, because then you've got some vindictive coaches like Phil Fulmer, Steve Spurrier levels of back in the day of the SEC.
Yeah, if this ends up with a Big Ten coach not being able to go to Big Ten media days because he is going to get subpoenaed in a case, as the Albert Means Phil Fulmer case ended about 20 years ago.
Would you be shocked? Nothing could shock us anymore about this one. There's going to be like somebody's going to stand up and ask a question, and they'll be served with papers. Like that's when you're asking a question at the Big Ten media days and you announce your affiliation, and you're just like, I'm from the 7th district or whatever, and like, here's your you've been served, that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah, we have definitely we're well past the point where it's like I would believe just about anything at this point in terms of like how this shakes out and where this goes, and we're gonna know a lot more tomorrow. And I think what's going to be interesting is I feel like you have a decent sense. And again, okay, once again, we're speculating a little bit about what's to come. My sense is that based on the response from Michigan, they are expecting to get hit pretty hard. My sense is that probably is suspension of Jim Harbaugh for more than 2 games, whether that's 4 games, the season, indefinite, whatever. And my sense is that Michigan, because Michigan has said this, is going to immediately race out and try and get an emergency injunction to allow him to coach. I feel reasonably confident that I'm within the margin of error here, on most of that stuff. I think that's largely what's going to happen. I don't think the whole Michigan coaching staff is going to get suspended. I don't think they're going to be made to retroactively forfeit all of their games this year. That doesn't, first of all, I don't think that, that would have to go through the JGAC, but, so theoretically any of that's possible. I don't get the sense that that's where we're headed. After that, once you get to Michigan goes to court, and then you tell me what happens after that. That's the point where, because Thursday is going to be a fascinating day regardless. But and then that's where this becomes. You tell me I'm ready for just about anything.
What if this whole this outpouring of anger and letters is just because they don't want to pay the $10,000 fine?
Well, I saw a Michigan blogger talking about the firm that's representing Michigan, and oh boy, they're really spending a lot of money here. I guess I think my response to that would be, if you're paying some white shoe law firm all this money and they're coming back with the "I'm rubber, you're glue" defense, that's probably not a great sign.
Yeah. Kevin, do you have something?
No, I'm just watching people in here just kind of go round and round about the vacuums and the lawyers and everything else. No, go ahead. I'll figure something out.
Hang on. Things that suck.
Lawyers, guns, and money. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Boy, I don't even know how much longer we want to go because
it feels like we're just sort of getting loosened up for what is bound to be an exciting eventful Thursday.
Is tomorrow going to be? I don't know what. We're not going to do a production meeting right now, but I'm not envisioning a signing day type of 8 hours at the desk.
I have.
Like I said, we're not going to do the production meeting right now.
We're doing a production.
Yeah,
super chat will stop.
I had scheduled some meetings for Thursday, which I'm now looking at and going, well, that was a poor choice.
So we'll see.
This is going to be, we've had a bunch of these over the last 5 years or so, where
really
you are going into a day saying this is going to be a day that people are talking about 30 years from now, and I very clearly remember the day that the Big Ten canceled the 2020 season. I was sitting on a bucket catching my daughter at a pitching lesson for her softball. And then this week there was a piece of news broke, and my phone buzzed, and I pulled my phone out, and a major piece of news broke, and I was sitting on a bucket catching my daughter at a softball pitching lesson. So as long as I can stay away from softball pitching lessons, I think everything will be okay. But maybe I have some cause and effect stuff.
Time is a flat circle.
Time is indeed a flat circle. But yeah, this is a, not necessarily the great kind of history the conference wants it to be, but man, this is going to be a fascinating and historic day, 2 days, 2 weeks to, hey, there's a football game in 15 days of some consequence involving many of the parties we have been discussing tonight.
Also a very big game in Happy Valley this weekend. So we will talk about all of that and more throughout the rest of the week and perhaps beyond, and probably beyond. I don't know, in fact, if we will ever stop talking about it, but tomorrow should be a pretty big day. And if it's not, Friday should be a pretty big day. And if it's not, Saturday should be a pretty big day.
Well,
whatever happens, we'll be here. And if nothing happens, then hey, great. Just follow the evidence. And if there's no evidence, then boom, fantastic. Do what you got to do. But that will do it from here, from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I want to thank you all for joining us. As we said earlier, now is a fantastic time to join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com, seeing a bunch of new members. So we do thank you guys for that. Jump on board now. Why don't you? So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.